Yeah, I mean, it's fair enough. I mean, they've got to make money, don't they? I mean,
they've got their desires their mimetic desires.
I've got their desires. Yeah, I was going to say that, like, I actually had a similar experience in a way, because, like, you know, when I was young, I was sort of working in shops, and after I left uni, I was working in shops and stuff, and it was like really crap. And I eventually got into like a, here we go. I got into a public service job. I got into statistics and social research and stuff. And I did that for years and years and years. I did it for like 25 years. And and towards the end, I thought, I've got to get out of here. I've got to get out of here. And I got out, but then I went back to uni. But when I went to uni, I was doing social research. When I went back to university, I was doing social research topics. I started off in a master's of social research and stuff, and I was pursuing all this stuff. And then I was doing environmental, human ecology and stuff like that. And gradually over, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, I dropped my sense of having to pursue that career, because, like, when I was out of the environment, I wasn't having all this input into me to sort of go, oh, this is a thing, you know, this is what you could do with your life and stuff. And I kind of dropped back into what you might call, like, there must be some part of you that is like a sort of a more natural, familiar part of you that you kind of fall back to. And my always used to say to me, well, go back to doing the things that you really liked doing when you were a kid. And
it makes you think, like, is that because you've mentioned a few times that and quite terrifyingly that your self is defined by your mimetic, by other people, by what they want, basically. And is that true, or is it just a motivating force that pushes you in directions that if you become more self-aware of, you can come back to a more like
I don't know if it's true or not. Like, it's it's
a great
theory, but the Jungian people are very clear that, you know, that your whole life is about working back towards that sense of self, the self and stuff. So, but Laz, you were telling us a really interesting story before.
It's about soul riding. I got that from Elliot Holmes. And it addresses that exact same problem of what should I do? What should I do in my life? And I think it, not explicitly, but it does address the avoidance of mimetic patterns by disconnecting from the world. And you get off the internet, get off messaging apps, and you fast for around 3 days. And this way, you move from a consumption mode of I'm receiving input from my environment, to which I'm adjusting my actions, to a place where you are forced to look inside, look at what's authentic about you. And it's about just writing intuitively, and trying to write in a way where you are unrestricted. You write on anything that comes to you.
Yeah.
And then you can look at that and just notice yourself in that. Like, where am I? Where is my soul in this? What are the things that resonate with me on a deep and fundamental level from what I've written down? And this way you can actually extract maybe your authentic being from yourself by suppressing the noise of the world. This might be a good approach. It will never be perfect, but maybe it will get you one step closer to the truth.
I wonder if people who are like intuitive or sensing, like, I don't know if you guys buy into like the MBTI personality type.
I personally do. I found that immensely helpful.
Yeah, same. I wonder if like intuitive and sensing people have a different like propensity to be caught up in a mimetic thing, because like what you were just saying now, like if you're trying to get in touch with your intuitive side, if you're a sensing person, probably have less of an access to that, and you're more likely to be kind of influenced from external kind of influence.
That's a good point.
An intuitive person, you might naturally come out from inside of you and be less prone to that.
Good question.
I don't know. I feel like it's more like the sensing or intuitive. It's like a bandwidth that you have on the world.
Right.
right? So that bandwidth is like going to pick up on sensing stuff or pick up on intuitive stuff more than the other, right? But with the mimesis, that's a whole nother idea again, where you kind of you're always going to be imitative, but what sort of mode or style do you pick up on to imitate? Like you might have, like, there's 50 people you meet in a day, and a sensing type might pick up on this one and this one as being more meaningful to them, but it's still an imitative process. I don't know.
I guess you sort of take it more in a passive way from what people are acting. I don't really know the specific.
Also, I think just in general, even if you're like extremely extroverted, then you're always among people, you're always interacting with them, and I just imagine that maybe that would push you a little bit deeper into mimesis because of your sheer exposure to those influences. And then maybe if you're more an introverted person, you look more on the inside. At the same time, I get it that everything, your personality that you picked up over the years, was influenced by your environment anyways. It's a difficult question.
Yeah, it's difficult. It is. I think that what you were talking about also, the finding the self, the Elliot Holt's method. Like there's James's channel, the Jung to Live By channel. They talk about the personal myth. What is your personal myth? And they've got a method for finding out what your personal myth is and being able to follow that more truly. But I think you can really get caught up in a whole bundle of stuff which just doesn't fit with you. Like I think you're right. It's like, so a sensing person, right, is like more hands-on, aren't they? Like sensing is like very practical, pragmatic. They don't think in the abstract so much. So like I can imagine that they'd still be imitative, but they'd be they're not even really picking up on what that intuitive thinker is going on about, because like to a sensing person, all the abstract stuff that's interesting to the intuitive, it doesn't actually exist. Like they just think that person is a bit airy fairy, and like they're not even picking up on half what they're doing. They're saying, going back to Poe in the MasterChef show last night, she was talking about how she was cooking that night, and she was in a more of a Zen mode, and like you could see she's intuitive. Like you could see she's very deeply intuitive, very deep thinker, right? And so you could see there's actually this whole universe of stuff that she's processing in her mind. But all the people on MasterChef pretty much are not like that. And so she was self-editing. She was saying, "Oh, I'm just in a funny mood today." But you could see if you know that you're a deep thinker too, and you can see that she's going off to some part of the universe that they have no concept even exists. Like
it can almost be, if I think I'm deeply intuitive, and it can be hard to even just like get by in the world sometimes, because it's like you've got two worlds going at like 100 miles an hour, and trying to focus on what's going on out here, and people like, I'm always called like a bit of a dill, or like behind, slow. Or
people used to think I was really vague because I'd be sort of there and I'd be kind of and I'm thinking all this stuff, and they're just like, come on, what are you, get with it.
I'm just chopping tomatoes. Why? How could you think a million thoughts while you're chopping tomatoes? And I'm like, But I wonder if that's influences your propensity or something like that.
Yeah. And also, Magenta, I wanted to then further develop that path to a solution. So just the sheer awareness of what's happening, whether that's sufficient or you need something else, because the Girardian prescription is very Christ-built, because he says that you will need to imitate anyways. You can't get out of it. It's not like you will stop your imitation through awareness, but you need to choose the right model for your imitation. And he finds that the characteristics and attributes of Christ, that's the only thing that will get you out of that cycle. So from your experience, when you watched that show and you notice the things emerging, like, do you think you tackled it successfully, or do you think there's something else?
I felt pleased with myself that I'd been able to slow it down, and I'd been able to observe it in myself, and I'd be able to go, that's an emotion, and like, it's okay. I don't have to be that emotion. I can acknowledge it, but I don't have to be it, and all that sort of stuff in that process. And then today, I've still got a little hangover idea that, oh wow, I really should, you know, focus on my art more and like achieve more things with it, proper things with it. But yeah, I can't say that, you know, like, you know, I've figured out a solution, except that and I know I'm gonna have to read the Bible.
I bought the Bible too, and I've started. It's interesting. It reads better than I expected.
Always
I'm
helps.
never gonna catch up with you boys. You boys are all so like, you've got so much boy energy, and you're just like always way ahead. I'm like trying to catch up, but yeah,
I have that in the Discord too. I get
Bible.
spun out.
Okay.
I have that in the Discord too. I get spun out. Everyone's throwing stuff in there, and I'm like, God, I just need to like get up to date on so much stuff.
Yeah, I know, it's dangerous.
Just quit while you're ahead. So you can't keep up.
Yeah.
You see, that's the same idea of the soul writing thing. You know, Magenta, that I've been trying to disconnect myself and compartmentalize what I do with regards to creative and productive activities and the social stuff. You see, it might be connected to this. If you want to create something that's authentic, maybe the way is to just try to disconnect yourself from the outside influences as much as you can, to, in a way, try to shield yourself from mimesis, which in itself probably won't solve the problem, but will make it easier, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Like, I think I'm going to give that. I definitely get heaps more productive the less I look at my phone.
Also, because even if you shield yourself from these shows or the telly and the internet, it will give you fewer opportunities to be envious and to jump on these trains of thoughts and actually get lost in something like envy, which I guess takes up a lot of your mental energy.
Although the thing is as well that that's the negative side of it. Like, on the other hand of it, like, you can get inspired. Like, and
yes, exactly.
That's what happened to me. Like, I'm going, wow, like, she's really settled down and done like really serious stuff. Like, that is really cool. And like, you know, like, I can feel it. Like, I'm a little bit scared of doing it, but like, maybe I should do it. And you know, it's probably a good thing. I don't know. So like,
you need to get your nature on.
Hey, yeah,
and you need to have the right balance, and I guess it's about what kind of mode you're in, because I guess you need to get inspired. Of course, like every great artist in history was inspired by someone, without an exception. Maybe with the exception of Christ, but even he was inspired by the big man upstairs. So but you do need that inspiration. At the same time, when you are creating, you want the opposite. You don't want to be influenced by others, because you want to find your authentic voice. It's probably that delicate interplay of these two modes, and you just need to find a balance.
Yeah, and I think also it's a thing of letting go of. I think part of it is letting go of the energy, because when we're letting go of it before it damages you, like, and so like, you know, you might get caught up, you get your nature on, and you sort of, you know, fired up, and you go after something, but like if you over identify with it, that's when you can you know, come a cropper, because you can throw everything into it and believe that you know, this is how you're going to make it in the world, or this is like really important, this is your thing, and like, you know, if anyone. And then if it doesn't come through, or someone gets in your way, or, you know, like, terrible things can happen. Like, so you need to be able to let go of it. You know, it was a mimetic desire. It caught me up in it. And like, you get caught up in all sorts of creative projects through your life. And then you need to be able to also go, yeah, it's not like everything. It's like, it's not worth getting sick over, or getting upset about, or you need to, like, oh, it didn't come to much, or that person, you know, that person really sabotaged it. Oh well, let go. Like, that is a skill, being able to just let go and flow on to the next exciting adventure.
It's
Yeah.
not like it's not who you are, where in your mind you might be like identifying with it on a kind of existential level.
Exactly.
And it may be an issue of like priority as well. Like if you have, maybe you could have multiple mimetic models, and you could sort of put them in a hierarchy. So say you were like, because they can be good or bad. I guess I kind of agree with that. If you had like Jesus at the top as an example, like if Gerard's saying Jesus is the ultimate model to guide you kind of in a real proper spiritual who you are, how you act as a person in a moral way, I guess. But then you could have loads of other models in the real world where, as long as you're acting in allegiance with kind of acting out the model of Jesus, hypothetically, but you could also act out the rivalry to the other mimetic model sort of further down in the hierarchy.
Yeah.
You can kind of as long as you're kind of steering in alignment with all of them.
Yeah, and you're willing to let go of it rather than get into violence over it or get into depression over it or something. Do you know? I suppose.
Yeah, like if you were like with Poe, you were like, oh, she's pushing me on to be creative, and there's creative, and then if you were aligned with kind of a morality aligned with kind of a higher hierarchical level, you'd be like, well, yeah, creativity is good, but then but then if you met Poe and you're like, I'm gonna murder you because you've created nicer art than me, damn you, but then then that you're like, but that would reach the kind of aligning with the higher mimetic order. So it's kind of you would not go down that path, but you would go down the creative path.
Exactly. There's some sort of underlying value that you've got to have to guide you, because I think that you're going to get caught up in all sorts of things. But also, I suppose there'd be different role models or different models for different circumstances. But yeah,
I think the different models for different circumstances. So ultimately, Gerard was a sociologist. I mean, he approached it from a sociology point of view, and so his idea is that if we just follow models that are present here in our circle of society, so on this fallen realm of human beings, so in this isolated system of human beings, then we can only find models which will lead to violence. Basically, our best solution so far in history was to still be engaged in these mimetic rivalries and then resolve the whole thing by sacrificing someone in this act of cathartic violence, which is the scapegoating thing.
Yeah.
And Girard says that the only way out of this is like you need help from the outside, because in this system, that's all you're going to get. And what you can do is imitate Jesus, but also because you will need to imitate a being who also imitates. And Jesus also imitates. He is the example of someone who's imitating God the Father. So it's basically like this multi-step approach coming down from, because like you can't imitate God the Father because God the Father is not an imitating being. And also, how would you imitate him? How would you even conceptualize him? It's impossible. So that's what Jesus does as the king, as the connection, as the bridge. That's what he allows you to do. He gives you the perfect example, the perfect model for imitation. And I guess, and I might be out of my depth with that, but Jesus also touches on authenticity and how you should be your genuine being. Because in Christianity, there is that thread of you have a mission and you have a destiny. And in this great drama or symphony of the world, which is being conducted by God, you have a very special role to play. It's really special. And your job is not to be envious of your neighbor, it's your job is to find what you need to do. Also, it's not your decision. It's something that you need to find.
Yes.
It's something that's out there for you, which is the perfect thing that you cannot even think of because it's beyond your capacity to imagine
And
because it's a divine quality.
This resonates very much with the idea of a personal myth as well. It's just like it's a true path. And from like my sense of it is like, as I've gotten better at letting go of things and following, in a sense, you know, what brings, like, seems to bring me more, you know, light at the time. Like I'll follow that sense of that, and not try and lock myself into some other thing which I feel like I should do, or is really pressing on me or something. So yeah, it's a real sort
but it also requires in a way a leap of faith, though, that I'm gonna do this, because the pressure to just give into the mimetic stuff, that also gives you the illusion of certainty, or maybe it gives you some degree of certainty of others are doing it, and this is out there.
It must be a valid thing to do.
And it must be safe too, because if I'm pursuing something authentic, that by definition will be something that no one knows. Because if someone knows about it, then that's not it. That's the whole idea, is that your personal myth is yours only, and it's yours to find, it's yours to develop. So you will need to take a leap of faith in it. First of all, a leap of faith even that it exists, because no one will be able to prove it to you. No one will be able to demonstrate it to you through empirical means. So there is that. So it does require some courage, because I think faith goes hand in hand with courage.
Do you think, could your personal myth almost be something that you engage in a rivalry with in itself?
Good question. Wow,
if you have this view of your myth, it's like an abstract construction, almost like something, because it's not objectively true. Like your myth is not your reality. It's not your truth. It's your best guess at the truth. It's your model of where you've been and where you're going and what you are, but it's not the truth. Like there's no way you have an objective view on it.
Yeah.
So in a way, you almost pitch yourself against it as a like, what would my myth do in this situation, or what would my myth want?
I don't have a definitive answer. My intuition tells me that it can be like your personal myth can have rivalry in it, probably like a healthy form of of rivalry. But again, this is an interesting question, because your personal myth, maybe it includes some unhealthy rivalry which you overcome.
It would almost be like where you're motivated in the positive way, or where you're tearing yourself up about not doing something.
Yeah.
Kind of like being hard on yourself. Maybe. I'm interested in this. I think this is where my interest comes in, where if Gerard mixes with a kind of internal psychology, as well as kind of external relationships.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think that's exactly how I felt about it. I feel like it's like Gerard has a better picture of how interpersonal, external relations happen.
Yeah.
But Jung has mapped out the internal territory.
Yeah.
That was my first idea about it, but I you know, it's a hard thing to
it's almost like Jung. It's almost like Jung in the external world would be someone who's like a supreme sociologist who's worked out how societies work really well and what drives societies. Which maybe that's what like Gerard. Maybe that's what Gerard is.
The outside world and Jung.
Yeah.
World. I think you're right. That's the same. Yeah. That's the same idea that I have as well. Like,
and they could blend together. Like in society, Gerard's explaining a mechanism, but then Jung's also explaining a collective unconscious, other themes that flow out into society. And then you could almost, and potentially Gerard is a mechanism that works internally as well, in the boundaries of what Jung's defined.
Yeah, well, like say for example, like you have like a negative situation going on, and that turns into a neurosis or whatever, and that has got a whole lot of conceptual ideas and thoughts and feelings that are kind of linked in together into like a complex or something, as far as I understand the concept of a complex, but like they're linked into a complex, and that might manifest in terms of symbolic imagery or dreams or experiences or feelings or whatever, those dreams and symbols and ideas and images and all of that is what Jung has understood. Like he's created a kind of a glossary or a lexicon of that inner world, that inner world of all the neuroses. But you know, in a sense, maybe the initial starting points of those neuroses are this simple mimetic mechanism. But where do they go from there? And you know, this whole system of symbolism of the unconscious and your own personal unconscious and the collective unconscious, the system of symbolization, is probably really valid. But like it's just that Gerard, I think, kind of has this explanation of how you actually get into the
and also even the Girardian prescription of just imitate Jesus. Well, that's not as like clear cut and simple anyways, because what does that mean? Who is Jesus? What is Jesus like? What does it mean for you to imitate him? Because you will always be you. You will never be Jesus, right? So how does that look like? How does it look? What kind of challenges you'll have? What kind of individual conundrums that you need to resolve through the Christian approach or your Christian imitation? Like what is that actually? I mean, people have been spending lifetimes trying to figure that out. It's not like it's that simple.
And you could easily fall into like a trap of trying to imitate Jesus, because you've like intellectualized Gerard, but your desire to be Jesus is because you want to feel better than anyone else, or your motivations for imitating, which is why your imitation will always be wrong.
This is so interesting, because if you think about like imitating Jesus, what Jesus did was the opposite of just serving you a bunch of rules and laws. He actually revolutionized that approach. When, I mean, the world that he was delivered into was all about the laws, the 400 plus laws of Moses. And he put a spin on it where he, instead of telling you that this is what you should do, this is what you should do, this is what you should do. No, you shouldn't even look at a woman lustfully, for example. He really cuts down into the intent. He addressed, and that's why a lot of the stuff that he said doesn't make sense. Like, what do you mean I can't even look at a woman lustfully? That's impossible. Well, that's the point. That's the point, because he's not pointing at something that's definitive, but something that's a goal, that's an ideal that you should move towards. And basically this is the way that he can articulate a pattern, because like otherwise he couldn't. That's why I think he was genius. We just talked about it with Invictus, that he was like Jesus. Even if you look at it like you move away from the metaphysics, and he's not the son of God, he's just like a super intelligent, wise teacher. Well, the idea that he was the word, that suggests that he had a way with words like no other human being. So he could actually construct these metaphors and analogies, which we still try to figure out 2,000 years later, because they are so deep. And maybe that's where the answer lies, of what kind of directions Jesus is setting, and then how can I bring that together with my own personality, my own desires, my own life circumstances.
You mentioned the when you said look at a woman lustfully, you're not meant to do that, triggered something. I've got this like Tao app and Stoic app, which gives you like a daily dose of wisdom from each. Kind of like interesting, but each of them I noticed yesterday, and they've kind of repetitively said this, both Taoism and Stoicism, both saying that the answer lies in not feeding your desire, in not wanting to, sort of disengaging from your desires as the solution, and not being driven. And that's exactly what Jesus is saying in there. He's saying you're going to feel lustful towards a woman, but you want to disengage from that and not identify with that desire. And I think that feeds back into Gerard as well, because then Gerard almost, if you want to solve the mimetic rivalry in a way, you want to just disengage from that desire, desire in general. I think you guys mentioned this actually in your chat that you had, because I was watching the video the other day. I think you mentioned that disengaging from desire in general as a thing, which is obviously easier said than done.
letting it go. Like, well, you know,
yeah,
the thing, like, you know, I was sitting on the couch and I had that feeling, and I saw it, and then I, you know, I let it go, and it's okay. It's okay. I am what I am. I'm doing what I'm doing. I don't have to. I don't have to be that person. But like, honestly, like, you can see how driving it is, you know, for most people, like, all the time. Like, they're picking up on things that they think are the things that they have to be, and
And actually, so that parallel between Jesus and disengaging from desire. So we can see this both with the Stoics, with Buddhism, and also with Jesus. Again, we just spoke about this with Invictus, that how Jesus, I think, is different and special is how he frames the problem and the way he proposes a solution, because he actually takes it one step further. He says that, look, the reality of this is evil is after you. Evil is real. So it's not just like a bunch of random desires, but it comes together and forms something that you can point to and articulate as evil. This is also Girard, by the way. His point is that this whole mimetic thing, you're looking at Satan. That's when the Gospels talk about Satan, that's what they are talking about. Even the names for Satan, there are a bunch of names in the Bible for Satan. Diabolos, which means the divider, or the accuser, for example. It's not a coincidence that they are trying to give Satan a bunch of names, because of course, as a limited human being, we live in this limited realm, and Satan is a god from our perspective. The Bible says that Satan is a god. That suggests that he is all around. He is ubiquitous. Well, we will only see like patterns and manifestations of him. So basically, that's what Jesus does. He takes it one step further, and instead of saying that, hey, just, you know, sit in the lotus position and try to be dispassionate about your desires. No. There is good in the world. There is evil in the world. There's a war going on, and you have a role to play in it. And I think this actually have a functional utility. It's not a coincidence that even the Bhagavad Gita is a drama, because I think the world is a drama. And the fact that it's a drama, it means that there are characters, there are actors in it. Things are happening. And I think that's the right interpretation. If that's not your interpretation of the world, I don't personally think that's accurate. So Jesus frames it as this drama. And instead of just saying that be disconnected from your emotions, like, no, love your enemy. I can't love your enemy. I can love my enemy. I mean, I can't love your enemy maybe, but it's what do you mean love my enemy? That's impossible. Well, that's still what you need to do.
And it is impossible if you're in a state of anger and envy. Like, it is really impossible. Like, you have to be able to get out of that state, and then you have to, like the way I understand it is because, like, I didn't have any sort of religious I don't have any religious sort of training to fall back on or anything. I did a lot of stuff with your body's reaction to things, right? And so that part of that was like being able to notice when you went into a state of negativity, right? And that's what I did last night. When I could feel that feeling here, I could feel that I was going into a negative state. I was going into a state of like it's a physiological downward movement of your energy instead of an upward movement of your energy. And sometimes you can feel it really strongly happening to you, and you get into arguments with people or something, you can feel it happening. And essentially, like, you know, you don't want to be in that state. That's the state that takes you down the path of illness. That's the state that takes you down the path of, like, you know, rupturing your family relationships and all sorts of things. So you don't want to be in that state, and the only way to not be in it is to be vigilantly aware of when you've gone into it and let it go. And I guess put yourself back into a state where you could love your enemy. Like, you could love that person. You could, instead of like being angry, you could you could forgive or whatever, and then you could, your heart, like you know that part of you that's like keeping your life energy strong, you can feel like it's tangible, visceral.
I just had this thought about, loving your enemy.
Very well, but anyway, go on. Sorry,
Yeah.
No, it makes sense.
No. And with this whole loving your enemy, ironically, I see this as a more militant move than just, I'm gonna try to disconnect from the feeling. I think it's a more.
It's like instead of withdrawing from battle because war is futile, it's attacking the enemy because
exactly.
Win. Yeah,
that's an act of war.
Yeah.
Because if I'm just passive, I see Jesus as being, like, ironically more aggressive, way more aggressive.
Yeah.
And his solution is that, but you can't fight evil with evil. That's the thing. That's actually the key. That you need to fight. He even said that I'm not here to bring peace. I'm bringing a sword. But what that sword is, that's something that we didn't think of, because we think about a sword in a different way. We needed that outside inspiration, maybe that divine inspiration, about how that sword actually looks like and how should you wield that sword, I guess.
Radical.
I was
what you're saying is radical love. Is that right, Lars?
Exactly. It is. But it's radical, and the point is that it is radical. It's not stoic, and it's not
because it's got to
really
be
about.
I guess stoicism to me is a practical tool.
Sure.
So I don't think I would use it as a. I find it helpful to read, be like, don't try and get over what you can't change and change what you can. Like, that's practical. But I would see it as a tool.
Yeah, I know. I found the Stoics to be super useful, and there's a lot of wisdom there. So I'm not trying. I'm just trying to, like, draw a contrast.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, I would put it
between the radical love. The whole point about that, in some ways, is that you have to commit, you have to act, like you have to be the first to. You have to have the strength to drop the anger.
Exactly.
To drop the violence. It's really hard. Like, I think it's quite hard. I don't know if I can.
No, really hard.
It is.
But by the way,
so hard. Yeah.
But you can get. That's the point, that you can get there. Most of the time you won't. But really, what I found personally, that most of the time I try, of course I can do that. Like, look at me. I'm not capable of doing that. But you can get there, and you can get closer. It's like meditation. Yeah. You're exercising a muscle. And also, by the way, this radical love idea that really aligns with the Boyle first principle of vitalism and beauty, because that's what you need to strive for. It's not about retreating. It's not about stepping back. It's not about suffocating and quenching that spirit. It's about actually letting it go and let it run and express itself in its entirety. But the direction should be radical love, I guess.
That's really full on, because, like, that's the first time I've really that really came home to me, that thing of, like, oh yes, it's all very well letting go, but actually putting yourself out there, like if you've just had an argument with someone or something, actually putting yourself out there and dropping the recriminations, like not even going there with saying, you think I did you wrong, but you did me wrong too, because you did this, this, and this. Like, not even going there and just going, look, I love you, just come down.
Exactly. And everyone. And it's difficult. Yeah, I think our time is up anyways, so we're running out. And
we are running out. It's probably a good time to actually wrap up, I suppose.
Yeah, to wrap it up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna post the Prestige movie in the group, and then we can, when we watch it, potentially we can find the time to dissect it, because
we have to find a good software that allows us to share synchronized video.
That's cool. Or maybe we can just watch it individually and just record
and then discuss
around it.
Yeah, okay. Good idea.
And then also, are you reading I Saw Satan Fall?
Yeah.
That would be great if we all read that together. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm reading it. I'm probably gonna finish it in like 2 weeks or so.
Oh, nice. You can be the expert.
No, yeah, I am absolutely. I'll try to be. Yeah. All right, guys. I think Zoom will shut down soon.
Yeah.
So, nice talking to you.
Yeah, great, guys.
Speak soon.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Have a good one, guys. See ya. Bye.
See ya. Okay.